Egyptian darkness reigns supreme, from Horseshoe Reef to Sulphur Stream. 100 stately ships have found their everlasting burial ground upon the awful reefs and rocks, and from moles and graving docks, and all because no warning light shone out to warn those ships at night. Anegada, forming part of the archipelago of the Virgin Islands, is home to a vibrant culture and a fiercely independent community.
Well, fishing is, I would say, the second pillar of economic-wise in Anegada. Tourism being the first, and then fishing. We have the third largest barrier reef that surrounds Anegada, so we have a healthy, fish environment, A BVI without Anegada definitely, to me, wouldn't be the BVI. I mean, Anegada is, the most special place in the BVI. Essentially, there's no other island in the Caribbean, or this part of the Caribbean, that, geographically is like Anegada, or even has a product that we have,
For me, it's hard to think about Anegada without simultaneously thinking about the Horseshoe Reef. For me, the Horseshoe Reef is directly tied to what it means for there to be an Anegada. The life of Anegada, the culture of Anegada, the people, and I think the actual very survival of Anegada when we think about sea level rise. If you think about the last major storm, Hurricane Irma, I've written a book about the hurricane, captured at least one survivor story from Anegada, and I firmly believe that part of why we didn't see a more significant storm surge effect in Anegada is because of that protective force of the Horseshoe Reef. I mean, coral reefs do an amazing job at attenuating or reducing wave energy, storm wave energy, I think up to like 90%. So imagine if the Horseshoe Reef wasn't there in Hurricane Irma, the more dramatic effect we would have had from storm surge. And there'll be other events, certainly, that roll through. So it protects Anegada from storm events, and it will also help to protect Anegada to some extent from sea level rise. We all know that our beautiful white sand beaches are formed from coral reefs. So that reef will help to build up Anegada's shoreline over time, as well as we have the sea level rise effect happening. So Anegada without the Horseshoe Reef, there is no Anegada. The two things go hand in hand. I think that's why it's so important for us to appreciate the need to protect that reef as much as we can, because it too is at threat as a result of climate change.
Okay, we've just come through the reef and we're on the east point of Anegada. Behind me is the Conch Mine, or Conch Island as they call it. It's a good tourist destination for some of the local operators. They can bring people up here and then show them the conch pile. People get to have a swim around it. It also home to a lot of juveniles and fish that look for protection, live in the shells, and then slowly migrate out and up the reef system. It's my understanding that this started in the 1940s, late 1940s, early 1950s, and it was following on from what the native Amerindians did, where they also stored the empty conch shells on land, which is straight behind us, behind this mangrove system. The basis for that, is my understanding, is that they were building a mound of conch shells so that they didn't put them back in the area where the conch had come from. If they return the conch to the shell to the area where they removed the conch from, the conch then leave that area as soon as they smell the fluids from the conch shell after the conch has been removed.
But the beauty and culture of Anegada is under a significant threat. With the climate change crisis causing sea levels to rise, Anegada might now be forced to live up to its name as the Sunken Island.
The outlook of Anegada in relation to sea level rise. Basically, it's true around the world that sea level is rising. This is not a theory. This is something that is happening, has been happening. There's data, recorded data, to show that in the Virgin Islands, sea level has been rising at a rate of about 2.5 millimeters per year since 1950, which might sound like a very small amount, but when that's added up over time, it equals to a big deal. So the projections show us that by the end of this century, we're looking at sea level rise in around the range of 1 meter. And translated to feet, that's just over 3 feet. There's some suggestion that those estimates might even be conservative, and we could be looking at a much greater rise of like 1.4 meters, which is about 4.5 feet. So now you're speaking in terms that you can appreciate, oh, that's almost, that's the height of some people, right? Or nearly the height of most adults. So that will be a significant rise, and what that would mean is that there will be parts of Anegada's shoreline that will be what we call inundated, that will no longer exist above sea level and will be permanently covered by the ocean.
Okay, we're at Keel Point on the northwest side of Anegada in the Windless Bight. What you see behind me is a direct result of climate change. What's occurred here is the longshore drift has been accelerated, and with the rising seawater, it's actually undermined this person's property. As it undermines it, it strips away the material and the vegetation and accelerates further erosion as it goes down the coastline.
With the rising sea levels and the island being vulnerable to erosion and flooding, the question now becomes, will Anegada become uninhabitable? The science is clear. The song of seabirds and the rhythm of the fishermen at work will be replaced by a rough surf and the sound of the sea rising. Countries like Tuvalu are already being faced with the reality of disappearing into the sea. It is time to bring the conversation closer to home.